Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randirhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
So tonight we're going to speak straight to the American people and cut right through the fake news media. Right through. We're going to speak the plain truth and really the truth that you just want to hear. You have to hear. They don't want to hear. But, and by the way, did you see all the corrections the media's been making? They're saying, sorry, they've been doing that all year. They never apologized. Maybe that comes with being the president. I don't know. They've been apologizing left and right.
Wait, were they or not?
They took this fraudster from ABC. They suspended him for a month. They should have fired him for what he wrote.
He didn't write anything.
He drove the stock market down 350 points in minutes, which, by the way, tells you they really like me, right? When you think of it.
Oh, so that's where we left off. That was the Friday night. Apparently there's a warrant out for my arrest in Alabama, so therefore I'll stay in Pensacola right on the Alabama border, and I will campaign for Roy Moore, but not with Roy Moore, because that's just too embarrassing. I mean, this is amazing. And they are on this tear now to discredit all of the mainstream media who sometimes makes mistakes, and they do issue corrections. All the time it happens. This story's been updated to reflect this, or this story's been redacted because of that, or this story. And Brian Ross gave a report last week that had a word wrong in it. It said that that Michael Flynn was directed by Donald Trump to do the reach around to the Russians, and that was not true. ABC corrected the report, and then they suspended Brian Ross for a month because it was a big story, and he got it wrong. And so not only did they correct the story, but they suspended the reporter who got the story wrong from a source. And that's what the media is supposed. I don't know about the suspension, but I do know that the correction is something that, in the newspapers, oh, that's right. We're talking newspapers. People don't read them. And on the network news, that's right. People don't watch network news. Could you tell me who the anchor is on CBS Evening News? Could you? No. Could you tell me who the anchor is on ABC Evening News? NBC Evening News? See? So this is just incredible what's going on. But, Donald Trump and, Sarah had a very, very nasty day today with the media. I mean, they are riding this Brian Ross story for all it's worth. So Jim Acosta was asking questions. He didn't even intend to go down this road with her. But she started attacking the media, too, because anything that Trump tells her to do, she will do. It's really kind of crazy. But, Sarah is the wall that he built. She is the wall. And she will do anything to defend him. And she did today. She started screaming because Jim Acosta wanted to know if there would be a congressional inquiry into the accusers who appeared today on several platforms, if you will. The accusers, Donald Trump has 3 accusers, plus 1 in court, okay? Summer Zervos is suing Donald Trump for defamation. And then you have Rachel Crooks, who worked at the Trump Organization. You have, I forget, the one on the airplane, Jessica Leeds, the 30-year-old story, right? But she says, listen, the story is old, but I just think that you should all know, what he does on an airplane when he's bored. He reaches up women's dresses, and it's just so interesting. Everybody has the same story about him because this is his move. And he doesn't have very many of them, apparently. And and Miss South Carolina, who competed in the Miss USA pageant, they were all on various platforms today. I tweeted it out so you could see it live. They were hosted by Greenwald from Brave New Films, who does documentaries and short films. And so he's been covering all of the accusers' stories to try and get Congress interested in the fact that the president is a serial assaulter of women. He's a molester, uninvited, who could do anything he wants by virtue of his own admission because he's a celebrity. So the women were on the TV today. They were all over Facebook. It was Brave New Films hosted it on their Facebook site. And, it was also viewable on PBS. PBS, anybody? PBS? No. And then clips of it appeared in various media outlets. But Sarah was asked about these women, and this is where the conversation deteriorated.
I would just say, Sarah, that journalists make honest mistakes, and that doesn't make them fake news. But the question that
when journalists make honest mistakes, they should own up to them. Sometimes
they do,
and a lot of times you don't. But there's a difference. There's a very big. I'm sorry, I'm not finished. There's a very big difference between making honest mistakes and purposefully misleading the American people. Something that happens regularly. You can't say I'm not done. You cannot say that it's an honest mistake when you're purposely putting out information that you know to be false, or when you're taking information that hasn't been validated, that hasn't been offered any credibility, and that has been continually denied by a number of people, including people with direct knowledge of an instance. This is something I'm speaking about the number of reports that have taken place over the last couple of weeks. I'm simply stating that there should be a certain level of responsibility.
All right, so you get her drift? All right, let's see. Here's a little clip from Friday night in Pensacola, and you could tell me whether or not this was purposely lying or not having the correct information and broadcasting it to the entire nation, on purpose to mislead.
They like things the way they used to be. They don't like it so much now, although I must tell you, they're doing well also. Their stocks are going up. I don't know if there's anything I can do to prevent it for those people. But they call themselves the resistance. You ever see these signs? Resist, resist. I love these guys. Look at these guys. Blacks for Trump. I love you. I love you. By the way, now that you bring it up, black home ownership just hit the highest level it's ever been in the history of our country. Congratulations.
Is that true? No, it is not. Is that even close to the truth? Not even related. You see what I mean, Sarah? You can't attack ABC News, who suspends a reporter for getting a story wrong, in an admission that the story needed to be corrected and that the reporter needed to be sidelined to teach him a lesson about sourcing, because that report should never have been made. And so he's been suspended for 1 month while ABC retracts the story. Black home ownership. Let's look at the facts, please, shall we? Black home ownership in this country peaked, meaning it was the highest it's ever been in the history of the United States of America in 2004. There was almost 50% of African Americans owning homes in this country, which is a congratulatory thing, but that was back 12 years ago, almost 13 years ago now. 2004. Oh, it is 13 years ago now. It's almost 14 years ago now. And then we had this massive tax cut in a time of war and a deregulation of the banks. And lo and behold, in 2008, the economy crashed, right? Yeah, so black home ownership, along with all home ownership, went down. 49.7% of African Americans own their own home. And then in 2008, that number went down to 42%. And guess what? Hasn't recovered. What the hell is he talking about? Sarah, I thought you needed to be responsible when you put information.
That journalists make honest mistakes, and that doesn't make them fake news. But the question that
But when journalists make honest mistakes, they should own up to them. Sometimes, and a lot of times you don't. But there's a difference. There's a very big... I'm sorry, I'm not finished. There's a very big difference between making honest mistakes and purposefully misleading the American people, something that happens regularly. You can't say, I'm not done. You cannot say, that it's an honest mistake when you're purposely putting out information that you know to be false.
So you should tell that to the president of the United States, who continually puts out information that he knows to be false. This man has lied every single day, multiple times a day, in various forms, whether it's tweeting, fake stuff, whether it's retweeting white supremacy crap, whether it's endorsing a man like Roy Moore, who obviously has been accused by several women, some of them 14 years old, some of them 17 years old. And for some reason, we're not supposed to look at a 34-year-old man hitting on a 16-year-old girl or 17-year-old girl by calling up her school and having her come out of trigonometry class, which is shocking that Alabama teaches trig, but to call her out of the trigonometry class so that he could ask her out on a date. I mean, this is sick behavior. And the president is endorsing this sick, twisted man who says things like, America was great when we had slavery, because families were tight. And the amount of lies that Trump told in that Pensacola thing on Friday night was just unbelievable. It was not just black home ownership. He also said the jobs are coming, and all this ridiculous stuff. And
This is a rigged system.
Oh my God.
This is a sick system from...
You're in charge of it.
The inside. And, there's no country like our country, but we have a lot of sickness in some of our institutions, and we're working very hard. We've got a lot of them straightened out, but we really do. We have a rigged system in this country, and we have to change it. Terrible. Terrible.
Do you know how dangerous this is? Do you have any idea how dangerous this is to cast doubt on the judicial system, to cast doubt on the FBI, to cast doubt on investigation? And this is what they're doing, okay? And they're doing it because they know that this president is guilty of something, and that 4 people have already been indicted with 2 guilty pleas, and it isn't going to end well for the president. Therefore, you have an entire news network called faux news, Fox News, fake news, that is sitting there every day, literally trashing America's confidence in a former FBI director who served 2 presidents of each party, and his investigation into whether or not this president is a foreign agent acting out Russia's foreign policy because he's blackmailable by that country. I mean, this is crazy. But wait, he goes off the deep. I mean, he can't tell the truth. He just cannot.
They're resisting progress. They're resisting change because the only thing they really care about is protecting what they've been able to do, which is really control the country and not to your benefit. By the way, wages starting to go up. First time in 20 years starting to go up. That's all going to happen.
Okay, that's a lie. Okay, that's a freaking lie. Wages went up 5 cents. 5 pennies since he's president. 5 cents. 0.2%. 0.2%. Our problem is stagnant, sluggish wages. And we are at full employment. And the last time we were at full employment was in 2000, before the crash. And wages were going up about 40 cents. Now they're going up. I mean, he just makes crap up. It's unfreaking believable. And that's all going to happen. Sarah, this is irresponsible according to your definition.
That's all going to happen.
It's all going to happen.
That's all going to happen. That's just a part of what's going on. But I'm going to do something better than that. We're going to have choice. Now, we have choice in education now. We're starting that, right? And I thought of it the other day. We're going to have choice in jobs so that you don't have one job and hang on even though you don't like it. You're going to have choice where you can take 5 jobs, 6 jobs, 7 jobs. Pick the one you like at the most money. That's what's starting to happen because the jobs are coming in.
Okay, the jobs are not pouring in. The jobs are not coming in. The fact check on whether or not we're building new factories or whether or not factories are relocating to the United States, actual spending on the construction of factories have dropped 14% over the past 12 months. There has been a steady decline in spending on factory construction since 2015, a trend Trump has been unable to reverse despite his claims otherwise. I mean, the man was standing on a stage for an hour and told more lies in an hour than anybody. And the crap that's going on Fox News, it's just sickening. I mean, Jeanine Pirro, I did a fact check on Jeanine Pirro. You know what fact check says about her, PolitiFact says about her, instead of going through each and every statement? They have Jeanine Pirro lies 100%.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Hey everybody, it's Brett from the Randi Rhodes Show, and all I want for Christmas is an impeachment. But the next best thing is working at the Randi Rhodes Show, and that can't happen without your support. Let's help Randi make this a hard truth holiday season, and she can't do that without your support. So please keep listening and buy a stinking podcast.
Hi, I'm Laura Flanders of The Laura Flanders Show. Watch every week on Free Speech TV, Link TV, YouTube, or if you're in New York, CUNY TV. Prefer to listen? Subscribe to the free podcast at lauraflanders.com. I end every week with a commentary. I call it the F word. Here's this week's. The news out of Trump Town comes so fast and furious that it feels to many progressives as if they're being hit on all possible fronts at once. Senate Republicans approve a tax bill that would further pillage the poor one day. The president opens millions of acres of protected federal and indigenous land to drilling the next. The day after that, the White House is recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and scuttling, we're told, the Middle East peace process. It's reckless, the press call it, but that doesn't seem the right word. The Trump GOP seems all about reckoning and paying their big donors back. It doesn't take a long research project to see how all these moves are connected. In Israel, the White House is in bed with the most far-right racist government in that country's history. They're in bed with the same sort of people in the U.S. In the Americas, their respect for indigenous land and rights and people is virtually non-existent, just as it is in the Middle East. In Israel, Washington plans to spend $38 billion in military aid over the next 10 years, while they simultaneously raid public coffers in the U.S. states. If there's any silver lining to the Trump apocalypse, surely, it's that the veneer of a social contract has been blown up. Government by the people, for the people, it's as dead as that Middle East peace process, which, by the way, Trump didn't destroy because it didn't exist. As far as the Palestinians are concerned, there's no peace process and there'll be no peace. Trade unions, political parties, NGOs, and refugee groups, essentially all of Palestinian civil society, called for a general strike in response to the White House announcement. In the U.S., the penny still has to drop. It's not recklessness on myriad fronts. It's all one front. It's all one wreck. You can watch this week's report on how activists in the South are coming together in the U.S. to build shared power this week on The Laura Flanders Show, on Link TV, Free Speech TV, CUNY TV, or on our own YouTube channel. Find out more at lauraflanders.com. And thanks.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
There is a cleansing needed in our FBI and Department of Justice.
Oh, my God.
It needs to be cleansed of individuals who should not just be fired, but who need to be taken out in handcuffs.
Oh, my God.
The stench coming out of the Justice Department and the FBI is like that of a third world country. Well, it's time to take them out in cuffs.
Oh, my God. A cleansing. Like, goes with the word ethnic. I mean, this is the language that they're using over at the white supreme network faux news. This is unfreaking believable. Here is what's going on over there. For those of you who refuse or cannot stand to watch it, I watch it so you don't have to.
Mueller is corrupt. The senior FBI is corrupt.
Oh, my God.
The system is corrupt.
Oh, my God.
I think there is, and has been ever since Trump was elected, a silent coup to get him out of office.
Illegitimate and corrupt. The deep state, so Robert Mueller's partisan, extremely biased, hyper-partisan attack team.
Hatchet men that he's hired, Obama, Clinton supporters, have brought not a single case related to collusion.
Utter disgrace.
The deep state.
And the FBI has become America's secret police.
Oh, that is freaking scary. I have to tell you, that is just unbelievable to me. I mean, the idea that we have inequality in the system of justice and the way it's administered at, you know, the policing level and the sentencing level is not unknown to any decent American. But the idea that the FBI or Robert Mueller's investigation, an independent counsel's investigation, is illegitimate and is to be shunned and it is to be mocked and it's to because they have 4 indictments and 2 guilty pleas by people who have lied to the FBI, people who have engaged in conversations about kidnapping people for $15 million paydays, that George Papadopoulos may have worn a wire, that we have evidence that may indicate that the president of the United States and his son were conspiring with Russians to get dirt on Hillary Clinton and release it to the public during the election. I mean, it's honestly the most frightening line I've ever heard in my life. Carl Bernstein gets it. He understands what's going on. They will do anything to defend this president, anything at all.
I think that there is an attempt to defend Donald Trump by his base and by many, many Republicans on Capitol Hill and also ordinary Republican voters to defend him at any cost, including the cost of the truth. Because unlike Watergate, let's go back to Watergate and look at who the heroes of Watergate were. They were Republicans who said, we have a criminal president of the United States. The fact that he is a Republican does not excuse him of criminality, and he needs to leave office. We don't seem to have that same attitude among mainstream Republicans as well as Republicans of the Congress of the United States today about the fairness of an open inquiry into Donald Trump and what might have occurred in his campaign related to the undermining of an American election, apparently by the Russians, according to our intelligence agencies. So we are in a situation today in which, again, everyone's conduct except those under investigation is suspect. It doesn't make sense. It's not logical. But we also are not living in a logical time. I mentioned this cold civil war a few moments ago in the earlier segment. And I think we need to look at so much of our culture in terms of the cold civil war and the willing participation of combatants, incidentally, on all sides of the cold civil war and willingness to be oblivious to facts.
Seriously. We have gotten to the point where there are people who are oblivious to facts because the facts are inconvenient. The facts implicate at least Donald Trump Jr. Being in touch with WikiLeaks, Donald Trump Jr. meeting with Russian intelligence officers, Russian lawyers who had just come from Russia after meeting with Russia's prosecutor, Yuri Chaika. I mean, it reeks to high heaven. And because we're getting closer and closer, it is now time for the Republicans to trash the investigation and the investigator. Adam Schiff lays out a hell of a case here.
You have in late April the Russians approaching the Trump campaign and saying, we have stolen Hillary Clinton emails. You have only weeks later the Russians making another approach to the campaign, this time at the highest levels, offering dirt on Hillary Clinton.
Sure.
The campaign already on notice that they have emails. You then have the message going back from the campaign to the Russians, basically, we would love to have your help, we'd love to play ball, but we are really disappointed in what you gave us. And only days later, Julian Assange announces he's received stolen emails, which we know now came from the Russians. And the Russians themselves start publishing the emails through these cutouts. You then have Trump Jr. in private secret communication with WikiLeaks. So we have all of these facts in chronology. You'd have to believe that these were all isolated incidents, not connected to each other. It just doesn't make rational sense. Now, can you prove beyond a reasonable doubt, will be Mueller's question to answer, that the Russians communicated to the campaign that the way they were going to deliver the help they offered and that the campaign accepted was not by handing the emails directly over to the campaign, but by publishing them. That will be up to Mueller, and we continue to try to fill in all of the missing pieces. But we do know this. The Russians offered help, the campaign accepted help. The Russians gave help, and the president made full use of that help. And that is pretty damning.
Yes, it is. The Russians offered help. The Russians gave help. The campaign accepted help. What more, do you really need to know? I mean, this is and so we need a cleansing.
There is a cleansing needed in our FBI and Department of Justice.
She just freaks me out, man, because this was a person who was almost Attorney General of New York. This was a person who is a judge, a sitting judge, and Roy Moore is a judge too. And Roy Moore is so unbelievably frightening to me, and not just because of the accusations of the women who are now women, who were girls, little girls, teenage girls, not just because of that, which is just vile. It's just vile. I mean, I thought we were all on the same page here in this country about pedophilia. I thought everybody agreed that that was a horror. Apparently, no. I would be wrong. Some people in Alabama are willing to say it's not a barrier to entry to the U.S. Senate, assaulting and trying to rape a 14-year-old girl. That's fine. I mean, it takes your breath away. But I want you to understand that this is a man who doesn't believe in the Constitution, who doesn't believe that this country should establish no religion, who doesn't believe that there is a place in this country for people who aren't Southern Baptists.
Of course, we've all been attacked by either the right, left, for anything negatively said about you or positively said about you. You are a polarizing figure. That's a given. I don't think
when you
anybody
believe in God and you acknowledge God, that automatically points to a difference with some in our society.
Sure.
And it paints you as a polarizing figure because you believe in what this country is founded upon. There is no doubt that our founding fathers, that throughout our history, we have acknowledged the sovereignty of God. We've recognized God in our law, one nation under God, in our pledge.
Okay, that was 1954, just saying.
God we trust on our money and on our national motto. But today, that causes you to be polarizing because some people don't want any restrictions on their life.
Sure.
They don't want any higher authority.
Sure.
And I understand that, but it's wrong in this country because our founding documents say that.
Okay, this man is a wackadoodle. He really is. He's nuts. He's a nutbag, okay? Our founding documents, first of all, God is not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution. Nowhere. And all laws have to comport with the Constitution, okay? And it does say no establishment in religion, period. Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Treaty of Tripoli to Muslims and said that America is not a Christian nation. These people are lunatics. You understand that? And they want their version of Sharia law in this country, which means blacks are 3/5 of a person at best, which means women should not be able to vote, which means that we are chattel and we can be done with whatever these men. Listen, I'll tell you something. Roy does not respect any laws that he thinks conflicts with biblical law. He thinks slavery is good. He has said he thinks slavery is good. This is lousy audio. Oh, it's not there yet. Well, I'll just play a report of what he said, and then I'll play you the lousy audio of him actually saying it. But Roy Moore thinks that slavery was the best. Somebody asked him, an African-American member of an audience, asked him, when was America great? Because the slogan is Make America Great Again. So they said, when was slavery great? When was America great? And he said, in slave times. Oh, no, you can't do that during the show.
One of the only African Americans in the audience asked Roy Moore for his opinion on when the last time America was great. Here's the quote. I think it was reportedly the quote, I think it was great at the time when families were united, even though we had slavery. They cared for one another. Our families were strong. Our country had a direction.
Donald Trump and Roy Moore ought to meet in some creepy chat room. Okay? Not campaigning as president, endorsing Roy Moore for the U.S. Senate. This is creepy chat room stuff. This is Reddit stuff. This is Stormfront stuff. This is white supremacist, white uber nationalism, Steve Bannon, Breitbart stuff. And it has risen to the level of presidential politics, of politics for the United States Senate. I mean, even Richard Shelby. What is this now? Oh, come on. Even Richard Shelby says he can't vote for Roy Moore. Over the weekend, he said that it was, a turning point for him when he heard the story about the 14-year-old. It was a tipping point for him. And so instead of, he needed to vote for a Republican. He couldn't make himself vote for Doug Jones, a Democrat. And so he did a write-in candidate because he cannot vote. And Shelby is the senior senator from Alabama.
Well, I'd rather see the Republican win, but I hope that Republican would be a write-in. I couldn't vote for Roy Moore. I didn't vote for Roy Moore, but I wrote in a distinguished Republican name, and I think a lot of people could do that. Will they do it? I'm not sure. I don't know what's going to happen. You know, as a Republican, I had to vote Republican. I wanted to vote Republican. I understand where the president's coming from. I understand we would like to retain that seat in the U.S. Senate. But I tell you what, there's a time, we call it a tipping point. And I think so many accusations, so many cuts, so many drip, drip, drip. When it got to the 14-year-old story, that was enough for me. I said, I can't vote for Roy Moore.
He can't vote for Roy Moore. And they keep saying, hey, we're Alabamians and we don't want people from the outside telling us what to do. Well, Richard Shelby is from the inside. Richard Shelby is the senior senator from your freaking state. And Richard Shelby is telling you he can't vote for Roy Moore. But the president of the United States, who's a New Yorker, he's telling you to vote for Roy Moore.
This guy's screaming, we want Roy Moore. He's right. We can't afford to have a liberal Democrat who is completely controlled by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. We can't do it. Can't do it. His name is Jones, and he's their total puppet, and everybody knows it. He will never, ever vote for us. We need somebody in that Senate seat who will vote for our Make America Great Again agenda. So get out and vote for Roy Moore. Do it. Do it.
This is a sick man. This is a very sick man. I tell you, Roy Moore has an obsessive evangelical Christian veneer that sort of cloaks him and makes him different in his sexual assaults than Donald Trump. But I'm telling you, if they didn't meet in politics, they'd be meeting on Stormfront or they'd be meeting in some creepy-ass chat room. These are the same men with the same view of little girls, women, the same view on African Americans, the same view on Muslims, the same view on everybody that isn't in the kind of like the NAMBLA club. You know what I mean? It's just like this is, their version of these creepy molesters, Chester the Molesters Club. They're the same. And, birds of a feather, people. Birds of a feather.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Hi, this is Scotty, Randy's producer, here to remind you it's December, a month that's known for its holidays. You got your Christmas, your Hanukkah, your Kwanzaa, your Boxing Day, Festivus. No matter what holiday you celebrate, it's a time we all come together with our families and friends. And since you're all my family and friends, I like to wish each and every one of you a happy/merry holidays of your choice. Now, if you're still looking for the perfect gift, I, Scotty, got you covered. Go to RandiRhodes.com and buy your friends or family a stinking podcast. Think about it. What better way to show your loved ones that you really care than sharing with them the knowledge of truth and facts? And if you can't stand the people in your life, but you still want to do something great for the holidays, here's an idea for you. Support the show. By supporting the Randi Rhodes Show, you help keep us going into the new year. And if 2017 was a sign of things to come, we'll need Randy more than ever. Go to RandiRhodes.com to buy a stinking podcast and or support the show.
Happy holidays, jerky fans. Herky Jerky knows it's the season to enjoy the world's best jerky and meat sticks, and they want you to save a bundle while doing it. Herky Jerky, first of all, would like to thank you all you fiercely loyal customers, because they had their most successful year thanks to you despite Mother Nature doing its worst. Jason at Herky Jerky is so grateful that you enjoy his products, and everyone at Herky Jerky is so glad to provide them. So, as a special thank you, Herky Jerky is serving up their best offer of the year for Christmas giving. $10 off any order of $60 or more, or $15 off any order $100 or more without a promo code. Just visit herkyjerky.com. And the now famous bacon jerky, new fat-free and delicious turkey jerky, and all four of the new nitrite and preservative-free flavors, plus good old beef jerky, and all the exotic game jerkies make perfect holiday gifts. Buffalo, elk, venison sticks, 3 different varieties of beef smokies, all make great stocking stuffers. So choose your favorites now. Take advantage of the savings, which also includes free shipping on any 2 packs or more. Everyone at Herky Jerky would like to wish a safe and happy holiday season to all of you, and thank you once again for your loyalty. This offer starts today and it goes through all of December. Happy holidays from herkyjerky.com.
Whether you're listening to me, Mark Levine, each Monday and Wednesday,
or me, Leslie Marshall, each Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday,
you can hear us 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Progressive Voices Network.
Here's a sample of what you'll hear.
Donald Trump's National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, who resigned in disgrace, has flipped on him. Now, for those of us who've been watching the Russia investigation, none of this is a surprise. Obviously, Trump and his team were colluding with Russia. Obviously, it was a conspiracy to commit espionage, commit treason, to change the election, and in return to give Russia what it wanted, basically to allow the United States to allow it to commit all its human rights abuses. This isn't even news. We're going to find out the details of it. It will come. And yes, I think we're at IMP on the impeachment scale. Again, that's Mark Levine every Monday and Wednesday.
And Leslie Marshall each Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Progressive Voices Network.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Do it now. All right, so this is fairly crappy audio. This is like some underground radio show that Roy Moore did in September. So this isn't like, he was a young man and miscut. No, he was already removed from the Supreme Court of Alabama twice at this point for his, refusal to go with, the Supreme Court, for his refusal to remove the Roy's Rock, this 5,000-pound thing. With the 10 Commandments. I think he's violated every one of them. I really do. Which is why he probably placed it there. Well, if I place it there, then nobody's going to know that I violated all of them. But, the coveting thing and the bearing false witness thing. Yeah, and love thy neighbor. Yeah, I think he had a weird interpretation. He also has a weird interpretation of slave times, okay, where just let's remember for a brief moment that slaves were property, they were owned, and they were tortured. If they didn't do what the master wanted them to do. And also their families were torn apart. Children would be sold to, at the auction block. A woman might have a couple of kids, and maybe one was a strong buck with good teeth, and he'd be put on the auction block and taken away from his mother. to be sold into another family's plantation. Oh, please. But this is what he said. There is, a closed captioning on the bottom.
I think it was great at the time when families were united. Even though we had slavery, they cared for one another. People were strong in the families. Our families were strong. Our country had a direction.
Damn. Yeah, our country had a direction. Yeah. The direction was, you could torture people. Yeah, you could. Yeah, it was all okay. It was fun, hobbling and, whipping and hot boxes and, all forms of torture. If you were, darker, a little more melanin, than I have, then I could torture you, as a young Southern woman. I mean, this is just, if Roy Moore wins this Senate, if Roy Moore doesn't win this Senate seat, I think Donald Trump will pick him to head up the EEOC or appoint him, to the Civil Rights Division in the Justice Department. I mean, this is like the sickest endorsement I've ever seen in my life. Natalie in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey.
You were talking about, you were playing the tape with Roy Moore and how the families were stronger back in slave times. My question is, which family? The Master's black family or Master's white family? I mean, or did they all get together in one great big family reunion?
This man is so delusional, and the president of the United States is equally delusional, and they lie like crazy. Maybe he's fantasizing about having, a sex with his slaves, the young ones, like Strom Thurmond with the servant girls. I don't know why they long for those days.
I don't either. I guess they want to do it without any questions.
Well, maybe he figures it would be, like one-stop shopping, and he wouldn't have to troll the malls like he has to now. Back in slave times, he could just go into, the slave house and pick somebody.
Oh, of course, and of course, he can make his own slaves. He can rape his female slaves and then sell the babies.
These are
babies.
This is some crazy country. I got to tell you, and there is a civil war in this country right now. It's just it's rhetorical, but it could actually happen. I can see it. The country is so completely torn apart and so completely divided and so completely in the tank for Donald Trump. A third of this country is, and no matter what he says or what he did or what kind of constitutional crisis or what war he got us into or what bad policy of yesteryear he endorses or tries to bring back, they will cheer for him, and it's very sick.
Of course,
it's just so sick.
It is, and I would like to have it just so that you don't get crazy calls. I am a black woman, a proud black woman, and I'm proud of my history, and I'm proud of being who I am. But I just wanted to put that out there so that nobody thinks that I'm being racist when I mentioned the slaves and master selling the babies.
I'm a black woman and a black journalist, but inside, but outside I'm pasty white, and there is nothing racist about saying that slavery was a torturous, hideous stain on this country, as was the genocide of the...
Exactly.
I mean, this country was founded on some really, really tragic crap. And you would think that we were in the business of making a more perfect union, not going back to the original sins of our time.
Exactly. I mean, when people first came, when the Pilgrims first came, I think they were all from all different backgrounds. And, I mean, this is what makes America great.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be about going back to the good old bad days.
I don't understand. The actual saying of it out loud by people in unbelievably powerful positions like a Supreme Court justice or a president or a senator or even a House member, it's vomit-inducing, really, that their wish for this country is to go backward in time. I thought that you won elections by looking to the future, but apparently not in Alabama.
No, No.
And that's sad.
Not in Alabama.
It makes me cry. It really does. It hurts my soul. It hurts my soul. It hurts the idea that I served this country in a uniform. It just kills me that this is what, after long last, this country has decided, or a third of this country has decided it's about. That it's about going back to slave days. It's about whittling down the Constitution to get rid of everything except the Bill of Rights. And then once they, to get rid of the Bill of Rights, actually, just all they want is I guess they're going to whittle it down to the point where, because obviously they're attacking the free press, they're attacking no establishment of religion. So the First Amendment is trash in their minds too, which means to me that all they're interested in is the Second Amendment. And they're going to whittle away until that's all that's left of your constitutional rights. Who the hell wants to go there? That is just twisted. Charlie in Los Angeles.
Hey, Randy.
Hey.
Great show.
Thanks.
I'm listening to Granny Cam with you.
Thank you.
I'm thinking, and I'm thinking, when did evidence, proof, did it become Republican or Democrat? In other words, regardless of Mueller's party, if he introduces proof, evidence, hard facts, how can then the person on trial say, yeah, but that bloody glove is Democratic, so I can't,
well,
I
they
can't
did.
put that on.
You know, that did happen. That absolutely did happen. We had a split screen, if you'll remember, and it was very divided. It was very very down the color line. Except, me, the pasty white girl, I understood why the jury acquitted. I really did. And it was all back to the same thing that Colin Kaepernick is kneeling about, and that's police brutality. And that's what the message was. And we have had this problem for more than 20 years now, and nobody seems to want to address it except for Donald Trump, who wants to go back in time to when it was all okay to do it.
Thank you, Randy. Buy a podcast, everyone.
Thank you. They probably, this is like watching this Roy Moore campaign makes, what's his face? George Wallace look tame. Segregation now, segregation amara, segregation forever. You thought that those days were over? Oh, how I laugh. No. Those days are not over. And in 1995, at the end of the OJ trial, which is what we're referring to, everybody knew there was this chasm. And then when we elected Barack Obama, they came out of the woodwork. And they just started saying it out loud. And then Donald Trump turned off the lights again and let the cockroaches come out and swarm all over any progress that we had made by, airing resentments. That black home ownership in 2004 was at 50%. Now it's down to 42%, but of course he lies about it. And why? I have no earthly idea. I guess he was trolling for some black Democratic voting in Alabama. It's just such a sick endorsement on his part. All he had to say was, I believe these girls. What do they have to lie about? And Roy Moore was all over the TV. I never molested a child. He was asked a question, and he volunteers molestation.
Lee Korfman and Beverly Young Nelson have come forward with serious allegations. You have said that you did not know them or had no encounter with them. That's my understanding.
I did not know them. I had no encounter with them. I never molested anyone.
Oh, my God.
And for them to say that, I don't know why they're saying it, but it's not true.
We also have women who were mentioned in the Washington Post article, Debbie Wesson Gibson and Gloria Thatcher.
I said I did not know any of the women who have charged me with sexual allegation on molestation, and I did not know any of the women. When I saw these pictures on the advertisements of my opponent, I did not recognize any of those people.
Sure.
Okay, except you signed their yearbook, you wrote cards, you called girls in their trigonometry class, the people at the mall remember you trolling, but they wrote letters to the editor of your hometown newspaper saying, why is he lying about us? You have Beverly Nelson on the TV saying, is it because he's a Republican that he can, get away with this? Is that more important than the fact that there are many of us who have come forward with 40, 50 witnesses that we told during the time we were 14, 15, 16, and 17 years old. I mean, is this all about a party politics? You have Richard Shelby, the senior senator from Alabama, who is hardly an interloper, telling Alabamians that he couldn't vote for Roy Moore. He couldn't, because he knows. And he also knows that there are a plethora of other issues with a man like Roy Moore. First and foremost, that he doesn't respect the Constitution, that he only respects the Bible, and that he will actually say, young girls is fine, slavery is good, but shellfish has to go. Mixed fiber clothing is an affront to the Lord. I mean, truly, this man is deranged. He is eaten up with some form, some brand of Christianity that makes no sense if you read the Sermon on the Mount. Rich in Denver.
Hey, Randy, great show as always.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to first thing say, buy a stinking podcast, give some money, and people in the room, write your House of Representatives Republicans and speak out and say what in the F is going on in this country, and let them know they're on notice that they're all going to go, if they don't get rid of this fake illegal rapist in the White House and this pedophile that's going to come to the Senate next week.
Well, let's not leave Trump out of the at least oogling of the young girls, because obviously 15-year-old girls in the Miss Teen USA. I mean, he was bragging on Howard Stern about how he gets to inspect them. He is right up there with Roy Moore, and this is why I say that it's like they're in some weird chat room. It's like they're in some weird club. It's like they're in some weird banned porn. Dark part of the internet, because pedophilia is illegal in every state. So I mean, the idea that they're endorsing each other, campaigning with each other, but they won't be seen with each other. It makes your skin crawl as a decent person.
And what I don't understand, what's really got me is where in the hell is the media on this? The media describes about Moore, they say sexual allegations. Let's call it what the hell it is. It's pedophilia.
Well, they have.
And we have a rapist in the White House. We have a sexual assaulter in the White House.
Yep.
I'm like, the media's gone to sleep in this country. Scott Gardner here from my state, Colorado, said he's proposing that he's talking to the Republicans about not seating Moore or not acknowledging.
Listen, the first thing that's going to happen.
They've ignored it.
Well, I know. And if Roy Moore is actually elected tomorrow. If he is actually elected tomorrow, then immediately he will be referred to the Ethics Committee, which is going to be a veneer. It's going to be a sham, okay? Because it took 30 months to get rid of Bob Packwood. 30 months. That's more than a year, almost 2 years, okay?
2 years.
Yeah. And so there's going to be that. And then you're going to have a guy who votes, in the Senate who has a history of pedophilia, and a president who also has that, signing these bills into law. I mean, this is just, I've never seen anything like it in any country, let alone ours.
I don't know what this is. This is not America, Like you said, this is destroyed from within.
Let's just be real clear. This is America. They are not American.
They're not American. Yeah.
They aren't. I'm talking little d democracy. They don't care about democracy. They don't care about free expression. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about laws. They don't care about children. They don't care about girls. They don't care about women. They don't care about African Americans. It's so funny, this Mississippi thing. He went to the Civil Rights Museum, boycotted by people who literally fought for civil rights. Why? Because he's endorsing people who endorse slavery. It is just bonkers.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force. The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
Raging wildfire continues to burn in the heart of Los Angeles.
Southern California wildfires continue to rage out of control. Interior Secretary proposes shrinking even more national monuments. New study warns even more public lands at risk due to fossil fuel exploitation. Plus, good news for renewable energy. It's now cheaper than both coal and nuclear plants.
All of that good and not so good news straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Trump signed an order slashing the size of bears' ears and Grand Staircase national monuments. Yes, I can understand. No, hey, come on. It's reasonable that he doesn't care about them. They're just national monuments. They're not Confederate monuments.
Oh, man. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, as you reported in our previous Green News Report, the Navajo Nation and other American Indian tribes are suing the Trump administration over slashing the size of those national monuments, and now outdoor recreation company Patagonia has announced that they, too, will sue, calling his reduction of the size of bears' ears by 85% an extreme overreach in authority. The company also put a full-page banner on the front of their website, "The President Stole Your Land," and Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke says that that advertisement was shameful.
Well, it looks like it's a very unpopular move that Trump has made, and more on that in just a minute. First off, though, California's most destructive fire season on record has just gotten worse. Just weeks after deadly wildfires in wine country in Northern California, down here in Southern California, multiple wind-driven wildfires exploded across the region this week. As we go to air, 4 major active fires are seriously straining the region's emergency resources. In total, the fires have destroyed more than 300 structures, forced the evacuations of nearly 200,000 people, shut down hundreds of schools and major freeway arteries, and enveloped the Los Angeles region in smoke. Thankfully, no deaths or major injuries have been reported. The largest and most destructive fire has hit the historic beach city of Ventura, California, burning 80 square miles, covering a football field every few seconds. In a press conference on Wednesday, Los Angeles County Fire Chief Darrell Osby told residents in woodland areas to be prepared to leave at a moment's notice.
It's critically important if there's an incident in your area that you evacuate early. We're expecting wind gusts in some areas up to 80 miles per hour. If you see something, don't wait for the evacuation order, leave.
No official word yet on the causes of any of these fires. A multi-day Santa Ana wind event, the worst of the year, has created what the National Weather Service called, quote, a recipe for explosive fire growth.
The state of California uses a color-coded wind map, and the most extreme wind is purple. They have never used that before. They are using that today.
The region has had no meaningful precipitation since March. Because of global warming, California's winters are increasingly warmer and drier, and winter wildfires are increasing in frequency. Now, fire season extends all year round. Meanwhile, in the wake of President Trump's slashing the size of 2 iconic national monuments to allow mining and drilling, Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke has now released a draft proposal for shrinking even more of America's protected national monuments, focusing on Cascade Siskiyou in Oregon and Gold Butte in Nevada. Zinke also proposed management changes for 6 more. That's code for allowing drilling, logging, and mining.
I can think of somewhere else I'd like to see some management changes.
In a statement, Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon noted that national monuments generate millions in tourism for local economies, saying, quote, Donald Trump's rollback harms rural economic progress and job creation. And also, very disturbingly, Zinke proposes opening up vast marine ocean reserves to industrial-scale commercial fishing, areas specifically set aside to rebuild depleted fisheries, crucial for sustaining the nation's seafood supply. And now a new report this week calculates just how much of the American public's land may be at risk of destruction from the Trump administration because they sit atop fossil fuels. In a first-ever comprehensive analysis, Greenpeace found that more than 120 million acres of federally protected lands larger than the state of California contain or overlap fossil fuel reserves and could be next on the chopping block as Trump reshapes American land policy to benefit the fossil fuel industry. Finally, though, some good news for renewable energy. A new study finds the cost of new wind and solar projects is cheaper now than running existing coal and nuclear plants for electricity. The researchers project that as utility-scale battery storage comes online, renewables will outpace natural gas as well.
Of course they will, as those folks who give a damn have been saying for many years. For much more on all of these reports and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Find us, follow us, and share us worldwide on the Facebooks and the Twitters at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island.
Please help Progressive Voices support the Green News Report by stopping by bradblog.com/donate.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it. Knock, knock. Who's there?
Hey! It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Homosexual conduct should be illegal. Yes.
Should be illegal.
Yes. It is immoral. It is defined by the law as detestable. It was against the law in most states until the Supreme Court in Lawrence v. Texas said that it wasn't.
We have kids driving by shooting each other that they don't even know each other. They're acting like animals because we've taught them they come from animals. They're treating their fellow man with prejudice because we taught them they come from animals, not from God, who despises that sort of thing.
You wonder why we're having problems in Newtown, Connecticut, all across our country with killing, stealing, committing adultery? Because we've forgotten the law of God.
We wouldn't be having the demonstrations and riots and division in our society if we returned to one nation under God as it was. We return the knowledge of God to our land, and God will heal our land. I believe in the Second Amendment.
Washington Post reports that Moore has been accused of initiating a sexual encounter with a then 14-year-old girl.
In regard to the other girls, you understand this is 40 years ago, and after my return from the military, I dated a lot of young ladies.
Do you remember dating girls that young at that time?
Not generally, no. I don't remember that, and I don't remember ever dating any girl without the permission of her mother.
I think it was great at the time when families were united, even though we had slavery. We promote a lot of bad things, you know?
Like?
Same-sex marriage.
That's the very argument that Vladimir Putin makes.
Well, then maybe Putin is right. Maybe he's more kin to me than I know.
What would you say to him?
Здравствуйте, как вы поживаете сегодня?
Oh, it's decision day in Alabama. And happy Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, everybody. Happy Hanukkah. I wonder if Hanukkah, the holiday, is going to have some sort of an effect on the turnout in Alabama. Yeah, I don't want it to get in the way of people casting their votes, having to buy 8 gifts all in one night. And, I'm pretty sure that the Moors think they have the Jewish vote all locked up. You've heard this, haven't you? This was last night. There were so many strange moments last night at that rally that Roy Moore had. There was this crazy, Roy Moore was, just disappeared. He just disappeared, and he let President Trump go to Pensacola, to Floribama, basically, because apparently there's a warrant out for Trump's arrest in Alabama. I don't know. He wouldn't set foot in Alabama, but he would go just 17 miles from the border, and he would endorse Roy Moore from Florida, but not in Alabama. And Roy Moore has been off the campaign trail for about 6 days. And last night he had this, last get out the vote sort of a thing with his wife and some of his friends who he hadn't seen in 40 years. I don't know. It had some of the weirdest moments I've ever seen at a campaign rally, because Roy Moore is one of the weirdest candidates I've ever seen come out of any campaign. I've just never seen anything like it. But, you know, Alabama has a decision to make today, which is, you know, Alabama is not a place associated with making great decisions. Can we all agree that that's true? Because the last decision I think they made was in 1865. Yeah, where they said we give up, and they have regretted that decision ever since. So, you know, I hope this Hanukkah holiday doesn't keep the 25% of the Jewish vote that, of course, is going to vote for Roy Moore, because you know, Roy Moore has Jewish friends, or at least a Jew as a friend. This was crazy.
Fake news would tell you that we don't care for Jews. I tell you all this because I've seen it all, so I just want to set the record straight while they're here. One of our attorneys is a Jew.
What? One of our attorneys is a Jew. And Roy Moore once hired a black man to be a marshal. I swear she said that at the Supreme Court when he hired the first African-American marshal. Not a law clerk, a marshal, whatever the hell that is. Kayla, can I just tell you, if Roy had had more than one Jewish lawyer, he might still be on the Supreme Court of Alabama. Just saying. Just saying. I don't want her or any of these more voters lighting candles for Hanukkah. I don't want them lighting anything, because in Alabama, when they light things, it's typically a cross or a black church. You know what I mean? So put down the lighters, Alabama, and play with the dreidel, I guess, is my best Hanukkah advice for you. Just play with the dreidel and vote for the guy who has a Jewish lawyer. Just the one. Just the one. Oh my God! Have a latke. Put the lighter down. Eat one of those chocolate delicious gold coins. I don't know why we have gold coins. Do you? Why do we have gold coins? I thought we chased the money changers out of the. I don't know. They're chocolate. Who cares? It's chocolate. Yeah, this was like the strangest campaign rally I had ever seen. But you know what? The strangest one was, the strangest rally we had seen up until this point was a Trump rally, right? He'll pay your lawyer's fees if you deck an African-American man, right? So it's been all really, 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 really weird on the Republican side for almost 2 years now. You would think we would get used to it, but they had a high bar and they freaking met it, because she came out and said, well, I just want you to know my husband Roy loves the African American. Why, he was the first one to ever hire a black marshal at the Alabama Supreme Court, where he had to resign twice for ethical violations. And we have a Jewish friend. Well, he's not really a friend. He's an attorney. Is what he is. And then they downshifted into this guy named Bill Stolley. I don't know what his name is. He hadn't seen Roy Moore. I swear to God, they're pulling these people like out of the freaking woodwork, okay? Hadn't seen Roy Moore in more than 40 years. 4 decades, okay? But he gave his testimony about Roy Moore's character last night by reliving Roy Moore's appearance unwittingly in a Vietnamese brothel loaded with young, nubile, firm, little Vietnamese girls. And according to the story, Roy Moore would not touch any of those young, nubile Vietnamese girls. Because apparently Roy doesn't date outside his race. I don't know, but check this out.
We got in his Jeep. He drove. He knew where he was going. And he took us to this place, which turned out to be a brothel. We walked inside. I could tell you what I saw, but I don't want to. It was clear to us what kind of place it was. And Roy turned to me in less time than it took for someone to come up to us. And there were certainly pretty girls, and they were girls. They were young. Some were probably very young. I don't know. I don't remember that. I wasn't there long enough. Roy said to me, "We shouldn't be here. I'm leaving," or words to that effect. In fact, I think those were his exact words. And I said, "Roy, I'm with you." I said, "But what are we going to do with the other guy?" And he said, "Well, if he stays, he's on his own." So we went up to him and we said, "Hey, let's get out of here. We're going back." He said, "No, it's my last night in Vietnam. I'm staying. I can get a ride back. Take my Jeep." And we did. Roy and I took his Jeep.
He stole a Jeep because he wouldn't date outside his race. I mean, it's just, this was the weirdest, and this is the strangest campaign. And, you know, like I said, you have a very high bar to beat when, you know, we've been privy to 2 years of Donald Trump out there on the campaign trail asking blacks, what do you have to lose? Really? How about my self-respect and dignity? How about that there? You know, talking about Mexicans are rapists from day one, from the very first day. And, you know, Roy Moore with his, you know, anti-gay, his homosexual conduct should be illegal. Oh, by the way, there were protests outside of the Roy Moore this was an off-the-hook freaking round. Honestly, it just took your breath away. But there was a man outside of the rally who is a lifelong Republican, by the way, and he apparently had a gay daughter. And I say had because his daughter took her own life at the age of 23. Not because Roy Moore touched her, no, but because she was a gay girl in Alabama. And all of this anti-gay sentiment that passes for polite conversation in Alabama was all too much for her. Her own father was not accepting of her gayness, still does not know if you're born that way. Let's all send him a Lady Gaga tape. He does have regrets about the way he talked to his own daughter, but he cannot vote for Roy Moore because Roy Moore actually says these things out loud and will govern that way. And this man has learned his lesson. His name's Nathan Mathis.
You're supposed to uphold the Constitution. The Constitution said all men are created equal. Well, how's my daughter a prevert just because she was gay?
Okay.
Does it mean she was born gay? I don't know the answer to that. But she was gay. There she is.
Are you a man of faith?
Am I a man of faith? Yes. I am.
Being out here tonight, what do you hope to accomplish?
I don't know what I'll accomplish. I really don't. I had mixed emotions about coming, but somebody needs to speak up. And if it's all to no avail, so be it. It won't be the first time I've done something to no avail, okay?
How far of a drive
But my
is it?
sign there speaks for itself, and my sign is true. Sir?
How far of a drive was this for you?
I'm only about 15 to 20 miles away. I was born here in Midland City.
So are you suggesting that the suicide of your daughter was because of...
No, I'm not suggesting that. I was anti-gay myself. I said bad things to my daughter myself, which I regret. But I can't take back what happened to my daughter. But stuff like saying my daughter's a prevert, sure, I'm sure that bothered her. Now, you know, Judge Moore not just said my daughter. He didn't call my daughter by name. He said all gay people are preverts, abominations. That's not true. We don't need a person like that representing us in Washington. That's why I'm here.
Well, if he could take it all back, I wonder if he would take back prevert and make it pervert. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. This is really where we are. So a major decision day on Hanukkah for Alabama. Not the place associated with making the greatest decisions known to man, but okay, this is where we are. I want you to know the Senate's already meeting, the Senate is, just in case Roy Moore wins, because if Roy Moore wins, they lose. And if Roy Moore loses, they lose. I'm feeling pretty good about it. Those are results I can live with, sorta. The polls are all over the place. I couldn't tell you for the life of me All I can tell you is low voter turnout, 25%.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Hey everybody, it's Brett from the Randi Rhodes Show, and all I want for Christmas is an impeachment. But the next best thing is working at the Randi Rhodes Show, and that can't happen without your support. Let's help Randi make this a hard truth holiday season, and she can't do that without your support. So please keep listening and buy a stinking podcast.
Hi, I'm Laura Flanders of The Laura Flanders Show. Watch every week on Free Speech TV, Link TV, YouTube, or if you're in New York, CUNY TV. Prefer to listen? Subscribe to the free podcast at lauraflanders.com. I end every week with a commentary. I call it the F word. Here's this week's. The news out of Trump Town comes so fast and furious that it feels to many progressives as if they're being hit on all possible fronts at once. Senate Republicans approve a tax bill that would further pillage the poor one day. The president opens millions of acres of protected federal and indigenous land to drilling the next. The day after that, the White House is recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and scuttling, we're told, the Middle East peace process. It's reckless, the press call it, but that doesn't seem the right word. The Trump GOP seems all about reckoning and paying their big donors back. It doesn't take a long research project to see how all these moves are connected. In Israel, the White House is in bed with the most far-right racist government in that country's history. They're in bed with the same sort of people in the U.S. In the Americas, their respect for indigenous land and rights and people is virtually non-existent, just as it is in the Middle East. In Israel, Washington plans to spend $38 billion in military aid over the next 10 years, while they simultaneously raid public coffers in the U.S. states. If there's any silver lining to the Trump apocalypse, surely, it's that the veneer of a social contract has been blown up. Government by the people, for the people, it's as dead as that Middle East peace process, which, by the way, Trump didn't destroy because it didn't exist. As far as the Palestinians are concerned, there's no peace process and there'll be no peace. Trade unions, political parties, NGOs, and refugee groups, essentially all of Palestinian civil society, called for a general strike in response to the White House announcement. In the U.S., the penny still has to drop. It's not recklessness on myriad fronts. It's all one front. It's all one wreck. You can watch this week's report on how activists in the South are coming together in the U.S. to build shared power this week on The Laura Flanders Show, on Link TV, Free Speech TV, CUNY TV, or on our own YouTube channel. Find out more at lauraflanders.com. And thanks.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
Yep, the president tweeting this morning just a few minutes ago, despite thousands of hours wasted and many millions of dollars spent, the Democrats have been unable to show any collusion with Russia. So now they are moving on to the false accusations and fabricated stories of women who I don't know and or have never met. Fake
news. Let's just stop right there, shall we? There is photographic evidence that Trump was with a good chunk of these women. There are 16 to 20 of them now. A new one came forward today. She's not new. I mean, she came out during the campaign, but she told her story today to Megyn Kelly. I don't know why people like talking to Megyn Kelly so much about their sexual, assaults, but they do. And that's where they've been going to tell their stories. I find this fascinating. But anyway, a new one came forward today. There are photographs of Donald Trump with this woman. There are photographs of Donald Trump with many of these women. And he's tweeting this morning that, I don't know any of them. I mean, it's the same as Roy Moore. And obviously, evidence was produced that showed that Roy Moore had signed yearbooks of these girls, that Roy Moore knew these girls, that people in the restaurant where one of the girls worked said that they remembered Roy Moore coming in and, taking her home. And I mean, this is great. What the hell? I mean, it's unbelievable. He's tweeting this morning that despite thousands of hours wasted on and many of millions of dollars spent, the Democrats have been unable to show First of all, who are the Democrats that are investigating you? I would like to know, because, last time I checked, Robert Mueller was a lifelong Republican. Last time I checked, the chairman of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees were Republican. Last time I checked, the chairman of the House Judiciary and the Senate Judiciary Committees were Republican. They're the ones with the open investigations. Mueller, House and Senate Intel, House and Senate Judiciary. They're Republican. What is he talking about? Democrats have been unable to show any collusion, and I don't know any of these girls, even though there are photographs of him with them. This is bizarro world, okay?
Russia. So now they're moving on to the false accusations and fabricated stories of women who I don't know and or have never met. Fake news.
Well, I mean, just to be clear, 3 women, 3 of the accusers came forward yesterday and had a press conference. So Democrats are responding to that.
Right. And look, a lot about this is what the president does, right? He attacks what he doesn't like, and that's his prerogative. And it's still allowed to be done under the First Amendment for now. But he's got his timing wrong, right? The accusations of the women came out before the investigation into the Russia situation in earnest. And this is Republican-led at every level.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. This president cannot tell the truth. Not at all, not ever. Not in his tweets, not at a microphone, not at a campaign rally, not at a stump speech for a pedophile. I mean, it's just amazing. It really is. It's just the sickest thing. The Democrats have failed to... The Democrats are not investigating you. The Democrats are participating in a Republican-led investigation. That is what they are doing. On their, assigned committees, they are participating with their Republican chairman and Robert Mueller, who is a lifelong registered Republican, who was the head of the FBI under 2 presidents, is investigating you. And apparently he's getting really close. And these women, they are accusing you of, and when he says, it all happened before the election and it was, litigated. Let me just say this. Here's the beauty part of that it happened before the election. Because it's all actionable. The things that he did before he was president are not protected things. So, he can't claim any privilege. He can't claim, that he's the commander in chief and he should not be. These are things that happened before he was president, and each and every one of them are actionable in a court of law, especially in a civil setting. Hence, you have Summer Zervos bringing a court case for defamation because Donald Trump called her a liar. And so she feels that she's been defamed and the damage that's been done to her reputation is obvious. So they're bringing a lawsuit. And because this happened before he was president, she is allowed to do that. That's the beauty part of all this happening before he was president. Now, I will say that there was another woman who came forward this morning. She's going to detail that she was at a Mar-a-Lago. They had a concert there. And she was invited by the staff photographer who Trump hired, who is her friend. I'm sure there are photos. Okay? And he grabbed her by the behind, because he only has a couple moves, is what it is.
Well, I was invited to a concert, and my friend was then my friend Ken Davidoff, who worked for Davidoff Studios. I thought this would be a wonderful event for me to attend because he knew I was a singer and I love soul music, and this was a great opportunity. So I agreed to go. We go backstage, and there's like a half moon. The way we're standing, we're in like a half moon shape. It's boy, girl, boy, girl. Regis Philbin and his wife Joy, Ken Davidoff, myself, Donald, and then Melania. Ray Charles is standing in front of us with his security guard. And the next thing you know, I feel a grab on my right side. So I quickly turn to look at what this is. I initially think this is probably Ken's camera bag. But to my surprise, it's Donald, and he's standing 1.5 feet away from me, so his hand had to reach out and touch me. I look at his face, he's looking stone cold, just stoic at Ray Charles, and I stand there, I'm stunned. I'm speechless. I don't even know what to do or say in that moment.
Just to clarify, so he grabbed your rear end?
Right, on the right side. So I turned to look up at him, and he's just standing there. Didn't even acknowledge me, or, you know, if he had accidentally nudged me, then he could have said, "Excuse me," but he said nothing. He knew what he did, and I could see it in his face, the look of guilt.
How did it make you feel?
It made me feel very small, inferior. It made me feel like I was objectified. I was sick. I was sick to my stomach.
Great. All right, so now we have Jessica Leeds, who was groped on an airplane, and when he reached under her skirt, she actually wrestled herself away, got up and went to the rear end of the cabin to get away from him. We have Ivana Trump, his first wife, who said in her divorce deposition, she said, "I referred to this as rape, but I do not want my words to be interpreted in a literal or a criminal sense." She settled with Donald Trump in her divorce case, but in 1993 she wrote a book where she softened the claim. But as part of her non-disclosure agreement, Ivana be a Trump, she is not allowed to discuss her marriage to Donald any longer without his permission. His own wife, he had signed a non-disclosure agreement. I mean, this is sick. You have Jill Harth, who said he pushed me up against the wall and had his hands all over me and tried to get up my dress again. This was in one of the children's bedrooms at Mar-a-Lago. Jill Harth was a former business partner of Donald Trump's, and she alleges that Trump forcibly tried to kiss her on the lips, groped her breasts, grabbed her genitals in what she referred to in a 1997 lawsuit as attempted rape. Never met Jill Harth, his business partner. And then on a previous occasion, she alleges he groped her under the table during dinner with colleagues at the Plaza Hotel, but he never met her. You have Kristen Anderson, quote, "He did touch my vagina through my underwear at the China Club in Manhattan in the early 1990s. But hey, that's 30 years ago, right? And in the 90s, you were allowed to grab women by the vagina. Roy Moore was allowed to troll them all for little girls. It was 30 years ago, right? 1990s. She says Trump put his hand up her skirt, touched her genitals through her underwear. Then you have Lisa Boyne. Trump stuck his head right underneath their skirts. She was 25 at the time in a New York restaurant, and she said that Trump insisted that female models walk across a table so he could look up their skirts and comment on whether or not they were wearing the underwears, and comment on their genitalia if he could see it. You now have Kathy Heller, who was at Mar-a-Lago at a Mother's Day brunch. She says that Trump forcibly tried to kiss her in public. He kissed me directly on the lips. You have Temple Taggart, who was 21 years old at a Miss USA pageant. And she said he kissed me directly on the lips. She's the former Miss Utah. And, she said he kissed her on the mouth 2 times, including the very first time she met him. And she found this uncomfortable. You have Mariah Biondo. She said she was 18 years old at the Miss Teen USA pageant in 1997. She was the Miss Vermont Teen USA contestant. Her and another accuser, who wants to remain unnamed, said that Trump walked into the dressing room unannounced while the teen beauty queens aged 15 to 19 were stark raving nude. They were naked. You have Karina Virginia, who at 27 years old was waiting for a car to pick her up after the U.S. Open in New York, standing outside, Forest Hills. And she said that Trump grabbed her arm and her breast. Then you have Bridget Sullivan. She was 19 backstage at the 2000 Miss USA pageant. She's a former Miss New Hampshire. And she says Trump walked into the dressing room unannounced while contestants were naked. That would be different from the 1997 event. This is the 2000 event. Also, he did that there. Of course, you have him admitting that to Howard Stern on tape. And then you have Tasha Dixon, who was 19 years old. She was at the 2001 Miss USA pageant, and she said she's the former Miss Arizona. And she says that Trump entered their dressing rooms when they were naked or half naked. You have Melinda Milgivry, who I just played you. She was 23 years old when that happened to her at Mar-a-Lago at the Ray Charles concert that they were having, where she was invited by the staff photographer hired by Donald Trump, but he doesn't know her either, even though they took photos together, and grabbed her behind, which, I think that's what Al Franken was accused of. And he's no longer, well, he is, but, he's being forced out of the Senate. Then you have Jennifer Murphy. She was 26 years old. This was in 2005. And she was a former contestant on The Apprentice. Of course, Trump doesn't know her either, even though he cast her for his show and worked with her and judged her whether or not she was fired. But he doesn't know her either. And she said that she was outside the elevator and he forcibly kissed her. She was 26. Then you have Rachel Crooks, who was 22, who actually worked for Donald Trump as a receptionist at Trump Tower. And of course, he doesn't know her either, even though he hired her. And she told her story yesterday that, he wouldn't stop kissing her on the lips outside of the elevator and, said that he could get her a modeling job, if only. Then you have Natasha Stoynoff. She was 40. And there was a room in Mar-a-Lago. The door was closed, and she said that Trump, within seconds, was pushing her against the wall and forcing his tongue down her throat. Then you got Nini Laxonen, 20 years old. She was outside the Ed Sullivan Theater getting ready for an appearance on Late Show with David Letterman. She is the former Miss Finland. And she alleges Trump grabbed her buttocks during a photo shoot before an appearance on The Late Show with David Letterman. He stood right next to me and suddenly he squeezed my butt. Jessica Drake, she said when we entered the room, he grabbed each of us tightly in a hug and kissed each of us on the lips without asking permission. She was 32 years old. This was at a golf tournament in Lake Tahoe. She said that Trump forcibly kissed her and then two of her female friends. And when they rebuffed her, or when the friends and her rebuffed him, he asked, how much? You have Samantha Holvey, who you heard yesterday. She was Miss North Carolina back in 2006. She said he would step in front of each girl and look you over from head to toe like we were just meat. Like we were just sexual objects, that we were not people. And she is asking for a congressional investigation into his behavior. You have, of course, Summer Zervos, who is suing him for defamation. She's also a former contestant on The Apprentice, but of course he doesn't know her either. Couldn't possibly know her. This was in the Trump Tower Hotel in Los Angeles. This was after she was a contestant on The Apprentice. She said that Trump groped her and kissed her. And of course, he called her a liar, so she's filed a defamation case. She said he grabbed my shoulder, began kissing me again very aggressively, and put his hand on my breast. And then you have Cassandra Searles, who said he probably doesn't want me telling my story about the time he continually grabbed my ass and invited me to his hotel room. She was a Miss Washington in 2013. And she's been commenting about this on Facebook, that Trump repeatedly grabbed her buttocks and invited her to his hotel room. Then, of course, today, Trump decided that, Nikki Haley, I just want you to know, his Secretary of State, she was talking to Christiane Amanpour on the CNN when she said this.
Women who accuse anyone should be heard. They should be heard and they should be dealt with. And I think we heard from them prior to the election. And I think any woman who has felt violated or felt mistreated in any way, they have every right to speak up.
Trump, Madam Secretary, was under the impression that they had already been dealt with by being harassed and mocked and belittled and slandered into silence. Apparently, he was wrong, as usual. So now he's furious at Nikki Haley. And you know what that means? Hate grope. Oh, yeah, Nikki. Serve it up, baby. He's going to grope and do it out of hate. No, so he's furious at the accusations, and he's furious that Nikki Haley said that these women should be heard and their complaints, I think is what she meant, should be dealt with. But she did say they should be heard and dealt with, which was unfortunate because Trump was sitting there going, they have been dealt with. I've belittled them. I've made them afraid. And he's very, very furious. He's very upset that he and all these allegations are coming up again. That all of this has resurfaced, see? Because the dude has endorsed a child molester, see? And all the ugly is bubbling up to the surface, and there is a lot of ugly around this Republican Party and these two men specifically, the Moore and the Trump. Birds of a feather, you know.
Clear for takeoff. The Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Hi, this is Scotty, Randy's producer, here to remind you it's December, a month that's known for its holidays. You got your Christmas, your Hanukkah, your Kwanzaa, your Boxing Day, Festivus. No matter what holiday you celebrate, it's a time we all come together with our families and friends. And since you're all my family and friends, I like to wish each and every one of you a happy/merry holidays of your choice. Now, if you're still looking for the perfect gift, I, Scotty, got you covered. Go to RandiRhodes.com and buy your friends or family a stinking podcast. Think about it. What better way to show your loved ones that you really care than sharing with them the knowledge of truth and facts? And if you can't stand the people in your life, but you still want to do something great for the holidays, here's an idea for you. Support the show. By supporting the Randi Rhodes Show, you help keep us going into the new year. And if 2017 was a sign of things to come, we'll need Randi more than ever. Go to RandiRhodes.com to buy a stinking podcast and or support the show.
Happy holidays, jerky fans. Herky Jerky knows it's the season to enjoy the world's best jerky and meat sticks, and they want you to save a bundle while doing it. Herky Jerky, first of all, would like to thank you all you fiercely loyal customers, because they had their most successful year thanks to you despite Mother Nature doing its worst. Jason at Herky Jerky is so grateful that you enjoy his products, and everyone at Herky Jerky is so glad to provide them. So, as a special thank you, Herky Jerky is serving up their best offer of the year for Christmas giving. $10 off any order of $60 or more, or $15 off any order $100 or more without a promo code. Just visit herkyjerky.com. And the now famous bacon jerky, new fat-free and delicious turkey jerky, and all four of the new nitrite and preservative-free flavors, plus good old beef jerky, and all the exotic game jerkies make perfect holiday gifts. Buffalo, elk, venison sticks, 3 different varieties of beef smokies, all make great stocking stuffers. So choose your favorites now. Take advantage of the savings, which also includes free shipping on any 2 packs or more. Everyone at Herky Jerky would like to wish a safe and happy holiday season to all of you, and thank you once again for your loyalty. This offer starts today and it goes through all of December. Happy holidays from herkyjerky.com.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
All right, so what does Trump do because he's angry? He tweets. That's what the president does, okay? And so this morning, this is what I woke up to. Ran. He's tweeting. I'm going to give you your morning tweets. That's what I wake up to every morning. And I go, come on, Mueller. So Howard reads from his phone, which is a body part now. Did you know that? The phone is a body? If you grab my phone, I'm going to scream sexual harassment because you're touching my body part. I am probably one of the few people in the world who could live without my phone. Truly, I can. But the rest of the world, they sleep with it. It's just, it's a body part. You know, I just never saw so much, touching of, a thing that's so close to you. Really, it's almost obscene. So he reads me these tweets. This is what the president tweets this morning. lightweight Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, a total flunky for Chuck Schumer, and someone who would come to my office begging, in quotes, for campaign contributions not so long ago and would do anything for them. You could do anything for them, is now in the ring fighting against Trump. Seriously, dude, you know, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the wall, as we affectionately call her here at the Randi Rhodes Show, she said today that only people whose minds are in the gutter would think that he was referring to some sexual favor when he said she would do anything for money. She would do anything for a campaign donation. Only people whose mind. Now, in standard English, how many people in this audience have ever said, I would do anything for that? Well, not anything. Right? So I think we're all adults here, and I think we all know what he meant, and I think he knows what he meant when he said, and he put it in parentheses too. Begging is in quotes and in parentheses, and would do anything for them. He wrote, someone who would come to my office begging for campaign contributions not so long ago and would do anything for them is now in the fighting ring against Trump. So I'll have you know that Kirsten Gillibrand had a little press briefing this morning.
It was a sexist smear attempting to silence my voice, and I will not be silenced on this issue. Neither will the women who stood up to the president yesterday, and neither will the millions of women who have been marching since the Women's March to stand up against policies they do not agree with.
And if you'll permit me a follow-up, do you see this as sexual harassment by tweet?
I see it as a sexist smear. I mean, that's what it is. And it's part of the president's effort at name calling. And it's not going to silence me. It's intended to silence me. It's not going to silence the women who have stood up against him directly. And it's not going to silence the millions of women out there who have been speaking out every day since his inauguration about things they disagree with.
Thank you guys. Senator, Republican leaders have been reluctant to even acknowledge the allegations against President Trump. Why do you think they'd be willing to open an investigation?
It's the right thing to do, and these allegations should be investigated. They should be investigated thoroughly. That is the right thing to do, and I am urging them to do that, and as should their constituents.
Okay, so that was her response. I'll have you know that by 4 o'clock this afternoon, Eastern Time, there were 100 Democratic lawmakers signing a letter calling on the Republican-led House Oversight Committee to open an investigation into the president's perverted nature. Because the president is a prevert. He's a prevert, and Roy Moore is a prevert who won't date outside his race. But he's a prevert. Now, here's the letter. And they wrote it to Trey Gowdy. Good luck with that. Trey Gowdy and Elijah Cummings, ranking member of the House Oversight Committee and Government Reform Committee. Dear Chairman Gowdy and Ranking Member Cummings, the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is the principal oversight committee of the House of Representatives, which, really makes me sad that Trey Gowdy, beam me up, Scotty, is in charge of oversight over these preverts. But it's true. And may at any time investigate any matter as set forth in House Rule 10. In that regard, as members of the Democratic Women's Working Group, we are requesting that the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform investigate the reports of sexual misconduct raised against President Trump, many of which he has denied. The American people deserve a full inquiry into the truth of these allegations. At least 17 women have publicly accused the president of sexual misconduct. They name them all, which I also, just went through the list and told you what they all said. Natasha Stoynoff recounted how the president pushed her against the wall, forced his tongue down her throat. Jill Hart described how the president tried to get up her dress. Kristen Anderson detailed how the president touched her genitals through her underwear. Mariah Bellondo, Rachel Crooks, Tasha Dixon, Jessica Drake, Kathy Heller, Samantha Holvey, Nini Laxonen, Jessica Leeds, Temple Taggart, McDowell, Mindy McGilvray, Cassandra Searles, Bridget Sullivan, Karina Virginia, and Summer Zervos have also offered alarming accounts. That's quite a list. He doesn't know any of them. Although some of them worked for him, some of them were on the TV with him. Not only are there photos, there's actual moving pictures. The president's own remarks appear to back up the allegations. The president has boasted in public and in crude terms that he feels at liberty to perpetrate such conduct against women. Subsequently, Mr. Trump apologized and called it locker room talk. He has since called all his accusers liars. In the time of Me Too, women across the country are coming forward with their own harrowing stories of sexual harassment and assault. Members of Congress have also come under scrutiny and investigation, with some resigning for improper sexual conduct. We cannot ignore the multitude of women who have come forward with accusations against Mr. Trump. With that said, the president should be allowed to present evidence in his own defense. Please respond with a decision within 10 days so that the Democratic Working Women's Group can proceed accordingly. We await your prompt response. Yeah, we'll get exit polls in Alabama before we'll get a response from the Trey Gowdies of the world. I mean, now that letter went out and it was just the Working Women's Group. And now there are 100 lawmakers, and they're not all women. You've got both senators from Oregon, Ron Wyden, and who's the other senator from Oregon? I always forget. Jeff Merkley. You've got a whole ton of people signing on. You've got Dick Durbin from Illinois. He said that the president will fail in his attempt to bully Gillibrand. You have Richard Blumenthal tweeting out, "I stand with Senator Gillibrand, a dedicated public servant and friend. America must reject Trump's sexist slurs." I mean, you have all kinds. And, the president feels now that the whole world is ganging up on him. The whole world. Because he's a prevert, and he was a prevert before he was president. And then to become president, apparently he broke several laws having to do with conspiracy and, taking stolen goods, which would make it a RICO Act violation. I mean, stop saying collusion already. Stop saying collusion. Collusion is not even a legal term. It just implies people work together, because that is what it means. A conspiracy to commit a crime, a conspiracy to violate election laws, a conspiracy to take stolen goods. These are RICO Act violations, and this is what Mueller is investigating, that and money laundering. And we know that because we've already had 2 guilty pleas. You already had. I mean, think about this. This would be the result of an investigation right here and now, okay? If all Mueller came up with was that the National Security Advisor of the United States of America, one of the most important positions in the White House, pled guilty to anything, that would be the result. That would be a good result for a independent counsel's investigation that the National Security Advisor was blackmailable by Russia. But no, you've got more. You also have a member of the foreign policy team lying and pleading guilty. You also have the president's campaign manager, Paul Manafort, charged with amazing crimes like money laundering and, he's out on, $10 million bail and violating the terms of his bail agreement by talking to Russian intelligence to write a ghost-written op-ed saying he's completely innocent to influence the jury pool. I mean, that would be the result of a decent, investigation into the Russia corruption, the Russia conspiracy. You're talking about the president's campaign manager and the president's handpicked national security advisor, who used to be the director of national intelligence, pleading guilty. I mean, come on, this is crazy. And we're not done. And we know we're not done because Mueller entered into a plea agreement with the national security advisor because he's frying bigger fish. The president and the president's son and the president's son-in-law, who repeatedly lied on financial disclosure forms and security, national security clearance forms. I mean, honest to God, man, do you really, really believe in your wildest dreams that Mueller, when he comes to town, isn't coming to get the president? A Republican, a lifelong Republican, is coming to get the president and will get his man. He will. And that's just like the most incredible thing to think about, because this man is completely and utterly unhinged simply because Nikki Haley, his Secretary of State, said these women should be taken seriously. And there's 20 of them, and they don't know each other, but they have evidence that they worked for Trump, evidence that they worked with Trump. They appeared on the TV with him, but he doesn't know them. And he's now attacking Kristen Gillibrand, who he wrote a check to. She does say she went to Trump's office once in 2010, because Trump had contributed to her in 2007, I believe. And so she looked at him as a donor. And she got invited to Trump Tower, and she did go to Trump Tower to meet with Donald Trump, but Ivanka was there and remained there the entire time. So this smear that she would do anything for this donation is complete and utter bullcrap, and everything he lies about is so easily debunked in like a second and a half with a photo or a tape of The Apprentice, or you look at the Center for Responsive Politics and you can see that Trump was a Kristen Gillibrand donor, and so was Ivanka. Ivanka gave her $2,000 after that meeting. So now you've got like I said, Merkley, you have Wyden. Now you also have Bernie Sanders. You have Cory Booker signing on to this. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So I doubt very much that the Republicans, Trey Gowdy, he doesn't even have time to comb his hair into anything but a point. So I don't know, maybe that does take up a lot of time. I don't know. I've never combed my hair into a point. I don't even know what hair care products you would use to get that look. However, maybe it does take up all his time, just like it takes up all Trump's time watching the TV, which is another thing he tweeted about. That was a fake news story. Trump tweeted yesterday, there was this very long article, which is amazing because it was in the Sunday New York Times, which is a must read if you're the president of the United States. I'm not the president of the United States. Howard isn't the president of the United States. And we do physically read the paper that comes to my house. It weighs more than Trump's head, more than all of Trey Gowdy's hair care products put together. It's a heavy thing that comes every Sunday, but it's something that people do, especially if you're president of the United States. You would expect that a newspaper, the newspaper of record, would be read by the president. So Sunday in the New York Times, it was a very long article. I mean, like seriously long. It had 60 sources, 60 sources in the White House. Associates, people who work in the White House, 60 people, all saying that Donald Trump is a degenerate couch potato. He watches anywhere from 4, sometimes 8 hours of television. And Trump, yesterday or the day after? What's today? What is today, Tuesday or what? Tuesday. So yesterday, Monday, not Sunday when he's reading it, because he doesn't read it. He tweets out that it's another fake story by the New York Times that he doesn't watch this much television. I have proof that he does, and I'm going to show it to you. And you can go look at it, too. It's in the form of his tweets. I mean, they're verbatim. Fox News says something. 5 minutes later, the president tweets it out verbatim. Or he directs his Twitter followers to Fox and Friends in the Morning, or he quotes Don Lemon, or he quotes this one, or he quotes that one, I mean, verbatim while they're doing their shows, but he's not watching. He doesn't pay any attention to the TV. I mean, honest to God, there is nothing this man can tell the truth about. You know why? He's a congenital liar. It's built into his system. He is a pathological, degenerate, corrupt, lying sack of lie. That's all he is. And he's tweeting it at Kristen Gillibrand. He says she's very disloyal to Bill and crooked, used in capital letters. And so for the Trump followers, do you even understand the crap he writes? Because I don't even understand the crap he writes. I did understand the sexist smear. I did understand the in parens, she begged and would do anything for it. Because usually when you say, oh, I would do anything for that, well, not anything follows that. Because we're all aware of what that means. But the big baby president doesn't understand what that means. And Sarah Huckabee Sanders has accused all of us of having dirty, dirty, perverted minds. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're the ones with the filthy minds. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.